Welcome to this video where we will talk about the movie Mad Max Fury Road. We will be exploring the movie storyline, summarizing its plot, and discuss the cast and characters. Then we will take a closer look at the film production details and box office performance. Finally, we will share review and audience reaction to give you a well-rounded perspective. Let's get started. Box office Max made Fury Road tops $300 million worldwide. Warner Bros. Time Warner's Inc. just sent out a press release proclaiming the above box office marathon. So yes, Mad Max Fury Road has indeed crossed the $300 million worldwide market at the global box office. The film has earned $125.1 million in the USA and the $177 million overseas, giving the Tom Hardy Charlize Theron release a $302.1 million worldwide crew. The film opened 4 days ago with a robust $45.4 million domestic opening and a $109 million worldwide box. The film has opened in most of its market, with the film set to open in Japan on June 20. We all like to talk about the China as the big Conan of the overseas markets, but Japan is no solution either. At a production budget of $150 million, the big Canon overseas market, but the Japan is no solution either. At a production budget of the $150 million conventional wisdom is that the film is now basically in the safe break-even zone would be profit steering to keep in $375 million market. I like to use 2.5x the budget as a journal safe zone for the eventual profit. But of course, every movie is different. So presuming it's continue its largely worldwide run, Giorgio Miller fourth Mad Max installment is a solid hit. The success of Mad Max Fury Road is something of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's the critical acclaimed, outright masterpiece that the over yes opening particle actions and the stunt work as well as the kind of one hand, it's the critical acclaim, override masterpiece that the offers eye-opening particle action and stunt work as well as the kind of the gender priority that it's all too relied, seen in the mainstream cinema, that the film basically cast Charlize Theron and not Tom Hardy as the action lead and the would-be protagonist in a story that the exactly about the real harm done to man and the woman because of the gender surprising and the particle role is old news by the now, and we know all about the versions man rights active woo. Particle rule is the old news by now, and we know all about the versions means rights actives who protest the film. We stupidly give a national platform so we could feel separated by the sweating down the low-hanging fruit, but I disagree. Of course, even with all of the celebrated over there fact and the look of the furious cosplay and the fan factions and spin-off hopes still to come, it's not like one action film is going to solve the problem of the integrated genre oppositions in its the various forms here and the abroad any mothers than the oxer trumps of the 12 years a slave magically solve free crime magically solve free crime in the America, but the film's success does hopefully signal to those who would make creative decisions in Hollywood that the so-called conversational wisdoms about the females in the big budgets action film is merely conventional. Mad Max box office collection breakdown of the $540 million gross worldwide, with the Mad Max Fury Road taking 70.30% of the franchise total. The Mad Max franchise has finally dropped the trailer for the fifth film, Furious, a Mad Max saga. The most beautiful part of this franchise is that it has been held by the gorgeous Miller throughout, and this the know the world of Mad Max inside to the current Out for brilliant film while the fans await the fifth film. Furious, a Mad Max saga, will be dropped in the theaters in 2024. The four previous films of the franchise are Mad Max 1979, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior 1981, Mad Max Beyond Thousands 1985, and Mad Max Fury Road 2012. Collective all the Mad Max films have collected around $540 million worldwide. The Mad Max Fury Road is the most successful film of the franchise, which the Winston's global domestic as well. The film which the started Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron and the Nicholas Hoult was the most loved film as well. Set in a post-apocalyptic world, it was released 30 years after its the previous film, while Mel Gibson passed the batons to the Tom Hardy. While the fourth film was set as a sort of the robot or telling the fifth one is a prequel to the fourth one, where anyone Taylor Joe will the portray a young Charlie Theron. Check out the individual box office performance of these the Marvels. Mad Max Fury Road, released in 2015. The film collected almost $380 million gross worldwide and they contributed to the 70.30% total of the franchise, while the domestic collection USA and the Canada territories contributed to a whopping $154 million gross. The film collected $225 million internationally. It is the highest grossing film is the Mad Max. In the USA, Mad Max Fury Road was released on the more than 3,500 screens and it registers a gross collection of the 45 million on the opening weekend. Mad Max Beyond Thunders, released in the 1985, this was the third Mad Max film which started the Tina Turner and the Mel Gibsons. It dealt with the world in a post-apocalyptic western which was a result of the accord. The film collected $36 million gross worldwide. Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, released in the 1981. The film was the second installment and the officially Synopsis read. Released in the 1981, the film was the second installment and the officially Synopsis read in the post-apocalyptic Australian wasteland. A chemical draft agreed to help a small Gosling-rich community escape a horde of the bandits. It started Mel Gibson's, Bruce Spence and the Michael Patrons in the lead, and the film collected $23 million gross worldwide. For Mad Max. The first Mad Max film was released in the 1979. According to the Screen Rant, the dynastic action film set a Guinness record for the most profitable film at the time with a $100 million collection. The film was made on a restricted budget of only $350K. The sci-fi classic was the historical hit. Mad Max Fury Road re-release. The fourth and the most successful film of this franchise was released twist after the release in 2015. It was first re-released in the 2016 and collected 421K domestically. Another 50K roller was added when the film was re-released in 2021. Now the fifth part of the franchise, starting Immortan Joe and the Cherish Hemsworth, is creeping up for a release in 2024. The trailer of the film has already dropped and fans are excited to give the film a chance. Deposit complain about the bad quality of the VFX and the overused CGI in the graphics. Not box office numbers are based on the estimated and the various source numbers have not been independently verified by the Chemo. Check out list of the highest grossing Hollywood film here. Stay tuned to the Koimo for more such interesting box office update. Second update Monday 12:07 p.m. Final gross have some in the for Warner Bros. For the Mad Max Fury Road. It ended its first weekend internationally a little under from the Sunday estimated with the $64 million Universe Pictures. Pitch Perfect 2, the number one picture in the state with the $69.2 million, brought in the $27.1 million from the 29 markets. Destiny Marvel, for its the superhero magnet, average age of the Ultron just keeps climbing past the $1 billion mark. Destiny also reported for its the animated Cinderella, and the Fox reported on their film. For from the Midson crowd, DreamWorks animated home and the long set ride, Universal also reported the final tellur for its the mega hit Fury 7 and its the horror flicks Underfriend and the OG. Final gross are now in the for the SI film. Max Machines and the Russia cross the water Devon, still awaiting final numbers from the Sony on the pure batters. Malcop 2. First update, Rotting Sunday, 12:33 p.m. past. International weekend estimated are now in from the Warner Bros. Village, Road Shadow Mad Max, Fury Road the major new, off shower intent. The critical landed, peak gross are received $64 million in the 68 overseas markets for a global total of the $109.4 million. It's performed especially well in action-loving base, and it's accepted to have long legs. The worldwide booty max, Fury Road Gotcha Mallers, best opening ever, and the petitions it atop the franchise as the biggest cross ever in the series. They were no first in the 40 terrorist, and the Max also helped make Warner the latest studio to join the $1 billion internationally box office club this year. Fury rode out of the gate on the Thursday at the same time it was the premiering. Here at the Cannons Film Festival, there were the over $9.1 million admissions on the nearly 900 screens across the session, which lost a day it would normally have had, giving the Cannon event many markets like the Frenzy typical bow on a Wednesday, but the film was held back to convince, with the red carpet beginning its show at the 2 p.m. on the Tuesday. Benefiting in part from the enhanced media coverage, MMFR had its the budget bow in France at a lower than the accepted $6.1 million, down from the $6.8 million on the 802 screens for the 3% of the market and the number one slot. Benefiting in part from the enhanced media coverage, MMFR had its the budget bow in the France at a lower than the accepted $6.1 million, down from the $6.8 million on the 802 screens for the 3% of the markets and the number one slot. The Heart and the Charlize Theron's next best place was the UK with a better than the estimated $7 million, up from the $6.1 million, and the 950 screens all thought it was best there by the Pitch Perfect 2, whose rating was released. Respective Max landed the biggest IMAX opening over 4 and the R-rated peak with the $935K. The rest of the top 5 for all strong starts. Korea scored $6.6 million of the 799 screens for a 39% share, and the number one Fury Road captured $764K in its the 50 IMAX play, also an R-rated record. Further in Korea, the film bested local opener Corner of the Evil, which took $6.3 million miler return to a post-apocalyptic future was number one and the worth $5.6 million in the Russia, one of the market most affected by the currency crisis. It was playing on the 2,434 screens with a massive 75% share of the top 5 films. Michael took the hometown average in the Australia for the $4.9 million from 442 screens. Another number one bow battling day by day with the Pitch Perfect 2 in its the second weekend there. Massive 75% share of the top 5 film. Myler took the hometown adventure in the Australia for $4.9 million for the 542 screens. Another number 1 bow battling day by day with the Pitch Perfect 2 in its second weekend there. Fury Road also ranked number 1 in the United Arab Emirates with a whopping $1.4 million on the only 80 screens for a per-screen average of the 500 in Spain. Ackner pulled in the $1.2 million from the 476 screen for a number 1 ranking there. It also took to the top spot in Italia with the $1.2 million from the 555 screens and the number 1 spot in the Thailand with the $1.2 million from the 440 screens. It will next release on the June 20 in the Japan. After blasting off in China last Tuesday, average age of the Ultron pack housed to a 60 final of the $154.1 million. It's the best Middle Kingdom debut ever for the Destiny Marvel, the second best friend Sunday of all time. Thereafter Transformers Age of the Execution last summer and the second best 60, smart after Furious 7. Just shy of its first week, Ultron has already become China number 8 industry release ever in total from the 91 territories. Ultron added a better than estimated $191.4 million, up from the $185 million internationally to rise its the offshore tally of the $175.9 million and the global comes of the 174.9 BM marketing in the 8th highest grossing film of all time. What more than now give Destiny bring rights to the 4 of the top 8 films ever. VIA, it's a max place. Ultron added $22 million worldwide in the frame with the $70.5 million of that from the China that crushed Transformers Age of the Execution previous $7.9 million record. Elsewhere, Ultron is now the biggest Destiny Marvel release and the number 2 biggest Western film in ever Korea. It shared that. Elsewhere, Ultron is now the biggest Destiny Marvel release and the number 2 biggest Western film ever in the Korea. It shared that. Destination in the other markets included Hong Kong, Malaysia and the Vietnam, the 5 top overseas home for the Ultron and the now China, $154.1 million, Korea, $78.9 million, the UK, $75.9 million and much better than the accepted gross in the Mexico, $45.4 million and the Brazil, $42.4 million. Japan released on the 4th July. Pitch Perfect Russian voice to the $68.9 million to the $70.3 million and Mad Max Stay Curious with the $44 million. Following last weekend early rollout, the Pitch Perfect 2 in the Australia and New Zealand universe added 27 more territories this frame, turning up and the estimated $27.1 million at the 2,890 date in the 29 territories for and the early total of the $38.3 million combined with the USA estimated total of the $69.2 million, less than the $7.3 million estimated from the studio on the Sunday. The worldwide comes in $107.5 million. At the international level, the Universe Pictures Gold Circle Entertain and the Boundstones production sequel is the outperforming the original by 176. Thereby, survival number 1 opening included the UK and the Germany that in the harmony with the previous film Full-Stop Terrorists included English and the German language markets building on that movie's sort of cult. NL3 starts the Baden Bells with the beat. It's the offshore theatrical lifetime of $5.3 million this week. Australia was the best ex-North America market the first time around and now has an 11-day total of the $40.4 million. That's the already better than the lifetime of the 2012 Turner. At its new place, the capable Them comedy grossed a final $7.7 million in the UK at a 482 dates. Germany, which was PP number 3 markets, opening number 1 with a final $4.1 million at a 557 dates, up 112% on the original. The Philippines brought number 1 start with a better than accepted $2.1 million, up from the $1.9 million at 136 states, and the Taiwan was tops with the $1.5 million at the 76 states and the 41% of the market. Those are notable given that no Asian terrorist was in the top 10 on the original, save Singapore, where it ultimately crossed $1 million. There are 30 opening to come next weekend added. 7 terrorists included Hungary, Israel, now Pre-quel, Portugal, Serbia, Metagenon and Spain. Furious 7 reached the Czech flag in the China on Tuesday after racking 2 and the historical $390.5 million comes the biggest box office number of all time in the markets in total this frame. 5-7 put another $6.8 million in the rank across 64 territories and now has an internationally comes of 1.144 billion. Furious 7 reaches the Czech flag in the China on Tuesday after racking on an historic $390.5 million comes the biggest box office number of all time in the market. In total things 5-7 put another $6.8 million in the tank across 64 territories and now has an international comes of 101.44 billion, and the combined with the USA total of the $343.8 million, it has a worldwide 1.48 billion. 7 is now the fourth highest grossing film of all time worldwide and the third international. It was shaping out to be a huge box office year for the Universal after China, the top grossing territories, the UR and the Ireland. $56.8 million Mexico, $51.5 million Brazil and the Germany. Home is in the home stretch after taking residence in the wasteland. This frame landing the number 2 slot at the $1.5 million on the 91 screens in total. The DreamWorks animated release from the Fox added a better than accepted $5.3 million, up from the $4.6 million bring to the offshore Hoult to the 186 point. Korea is the last market to release this coming week. Destiny Centrella continued to clean up in Japan, where it was off just 2% for a local comes of the $33.6 million. The international weekend was gross for a better than accepted $3.7 million, up from the $3.3 million, taking the offshore total to the $324.1 million and the overall box office to $521.3 million. Sony Pure Black Malcop 2 grossed an estimated $1.7 million of 1,740 screens in the 52 territories this weekend, bring the overseas comes to $31.5 million. Germany was up 11% in its the sixth frame for an additional $450K that it takes the local comes to $5.2 million. Wensley in the fifth session was off by just 22% for a total of the $3.4 million. Fong Langist Wright earned $1.75 million to take the comes to $80 million after 3 weeks in the international release. There were no new opening this frame as it's the continue to play in the 26 territories. Same grows from the Unfriend, which is in the early stage of the international play from Universe, and the estimated this frame of $1 million in the 11 territories in the 790 ranks to take the total of $10.59 million. Notable, the UK has grossed $5 million in the 7 days Australia has the 2.2 million in the 80 days and Korea $1.5 million in the 11 days. This week, the film opened in the Thailand. Universal other horror film OG is still playing in the 5 market at the 212 days to add another $338K this weekend to bring its the final total to $52 million combined with the USA total of the $51.1 million. The worldwide total is now $103.2 million this weekend marked the end of the theatrical rollout. The top Hoult overwatched the France in its third weekend in play. It grossed another 237K at the 166 date for a 90 days total of the $1.7 million. Tom's winter breaks for the screen lights. Big Four from the madding crowd has survival, middle, east bow and the sweeter line up for a 789K that included the UK where it now has a 6.98 million comes. The total offshore is $8 million in the 12 markets. In its expansions in state in the Ireland, the top 10 domestically that pass weekend and it's the playing another exceptions for the Memorial Day holiday in the USA. X Machines Alex Garland's sci-fi film grows another 365K on the 324 runs to bring its the 17 terrorists gross to the $10 million. It is the second weekend down and that it's only dropped 25%, a great haul to take and the 11-day total of the $220K. The film was number 13 and will be rolling out to another local starting May 28 throughout June. In the state, the total is now $90.6 million. The film will release next in France on the 3rd June and in Italy on the 30 July. The Water Diamond, Russell Crowe's epic film in which he started, and the helmet gross another 172K this weekend at the 312 days, and the Universal is handling for a 7 terrorist total of the $40.9 million. Furious box office bets breaks on the Georgia Miller next Mad Max movie. 45 years after Georgia Miller introduced audience to Mad Max, the author may have finally hit the end of the road. Post-apocalyptic wasteland unless he finds some the highest oceans Gosling's son, the Overlord. Filmmaker furious a Mad Max saga about to a disappoint $32 domestically for the 4-day Memorial Day weekend and the $36.5 million overseas, diminishing hopes for the Mad Max The Wasteland, another mixed installment Miller has been trying with the 4 years. Miller and the Nico Ledres wrote the script for the both The Wasteland and The Furious as part of the development process of Mad Max Fury Road 2015 Warren Bros. Film that became a surprise award sessions judgment, winning 6 Oscars, and which became an instant actions. The Wasteland would flocks make Western and the Furious as a part of the development process of Mad Max Fury Road, the 2012 Warner's Bros. Film that became a surprise award sessions judgment, winning 6 Oscars and which became an instant action classic. The Wasted would follow Max Rockatansky in the year before Fury Road and is said involve a young mother and the included plenty of the action. In recent weeks, Miller has acknowledged much was hanging on the Furious in terms of the possibility of the Wasteland. I will definitely wait to see how this Furious goes before we even think about it, Miller told journalists May 16th, the morning after the distribution's action-adventure play at the Cannes Film Festival to a 7-minute standing auctions. Sources agree that the Wasteland fate is complicated by Furious box office, but stress is what not even a development. For his part, Warner, where Miller is a beloved figure, says it's the incredible proud of the Furious. The reaction from the moviegoers is likely as positive as a Miller Hop. It boasts a 19% positions audience score, rating on the Rotten Tomatoes and earned a B positive camera score, but in a troubling and unaccepted twist for the favor families and the younger male adult show up then came out from a Miller Mad Max Fury Road 9 years ago. On the Fury Road opening weekend, the split was the 60% male to the 40% according to source, with access to exist service indicated by post-talk, but the Furious audience was 71% male and the 29% female, a worrisome decline and a trailing number for a futures market as a female drive-in vehicles and the 80 to 24 age group, who are the most frequent moviegoers, planted from the 31% for the Fury Road to the 21% for the Furious. Observers note that the Fury Road, aside the male fluid Mad Max series, has always catered to a somewhat niche audience. The first three films, starting Mel Gibson, grossed less than $70 million combined domestically. IP like Mad Max and the Ghostbuster is old and they have the fans they are going to have, says one theatre's China executive. If studio can board to that, they might make some decent money. Talk of making Miller next Mad Max film could rephrase it. The Furious gets a major turns up and they enjoy a road trips down the box office highway as Fury Road did thanks to a strong multipliers. But many Western's box office points are the doubtful where such a recovery is possible, with one reveal studio saying it could have a hard time getting past $90 million domestically. Fury Road, which successfully rebooted the franchise by the casting Gibson with the Tom Hardy and introduced Grizzly Thorn Furious, opened to $45.3 million domestically on its the way to grossing $379.4 million worldwide, a judgment by the standards of the franchise and a modest hit by Hollywood standards, considering it had a net budget of at least $157 million before marketing. Still, it had an the outside cultural impact enough for the previous reimage at the Warner Bros. To the green light Furious at its the same. The studio has a revitalized franchise on its the hand and it's the would-be away of the Horning Miller and the 45 years anniversary of Mad Max. Miller, who remains a beloved figure within the studio, prefers to shoot particle as much as possible before having visual effects supplement the rest, which pushes up production costs. Miller opted not to bring back Throne as he felt that he and the technology used in Miller opted not to bring back Throne as he felt that the adding technology used in the film, such as Martin's scarce, the Reichman's, was the distracting to audience. Throne, for her part, aside she was sad not to return deposit her the grand experience shooting for the first one. Instead, Miller cast Anya Taylor-Joy as a younger version of Thorne's Taylor characters and added Chris Hemsworth as a word. Furious is also a Mad Max movie. Furious is a Mad Max movie without Mad Max, save for small camps. I think Furious served without the Charlie people who see the movie love it. The problem is getting them into theaters. She would have been able to do that, says one studio insider. And a veteran Hollywood executed Fury Road was another outlier in the series. It also had a hot young star and a huge female star. 9 years later, it had neither. Fury's kept a May that will go down in the fame in box office lore due to the strikes, megaton polls that have come to define summer world delight, promoting moviegoers overall to plummet and theaters China hoping for a better 2025. Just survived that 25 has become a mantle for studio and theaters owners Miller film was never intended to be an all-audience tentpole that the enters Memorial Day. Last year's the title's Mermaid debuted to the $180 million, but like other recent titles, it still came involved behind tracking productions of the $40 to $45 million. Wall Street and the Hollywood knew that was going to the both and said, declaring that the theatrical is over all. Wallstead and the Hollywood knew this year was going to be the tough and said, declaring that the theatrical is overblown. Let's see what happened next year with the Missions Impossible and in the 2026 with the next Star Wars movie, says box office analyst Eric Handler of the Roth Capital. All eyes are now on the June Inside Out 2 and the July Disable Me 4 and the Dipole and the Warners to encourage the marketplace and help other films in the process. This favor will the hopefully break in June and July with and the overperformance by at least one of the highest profile film to get the wine back in the sales of the box office, says Buell. Their Grabians become scarce. As for the Furious, it has the upcoming weekend to itself and will still be playing in the AMX and the premium larger format. As for years, it has the upcoming weekend to itself and will still to playing in IMX and the premium larger format screens, which opening up a significant portion of the opening weekend gross. Then it will have to continue with the another vehicles and the gun-heavy features, Sony Bad Boy Side or the Die. The original Mad Max box office record Furious can possibly beat. Even in Furious, a Mad Max saga does not extraordinary well. The Mad Max spin-off can possibly hope to the death on one the impressive franchise box office record. The Mad Max series has come a long way from its humble beginnings. 1979 original Mad Max was made for the only $350,000, a maker's budget that the shaped the movie interior story. The original Mad Max was only set in the future to save on the production cost, as the filming in the advanced locations was the cheaper and the could be excused. With the Vigo nod to the movie, frustrating setting, the franchise has changed a lot since. The first night of the series, the upcoming Furious A Mad Max saga, cost a whopping $168 million. The first night of the series, the upcoming Furious A Mad Max saga cost a whopping $168 million and is expected to be one of the biggest blockbusters of summer 2024. It's the predecessor 2015 Fury Road earned over the $380 million at the box office and some of the franchise's best review yet. Furious A Mad Max saga plays in the Mad Max series timeline means its story will flash back to the franchise original, but the movie can't unseat the 1979 original when it's come to an impressive box office record. Even Mad Max 5, The Wasteland want to be able to achieve this feat. Furious can't defeat Mad Max's incredible profit. The original low-budget 1979 movie was the historical profitable. It might be the biggest movie in the series, but Furious A Mad Max saga can't beat the original movie profit to cost ratios. Mad Max cost accrued $350,100 $1.96 million in the 2023 and made over $100 million too much this Furious. It might be the biggest movie in the series, but Furious A Mad Max saga can't beat the original movie profit to cost ratio. Mad Max grossed around $350,000 $966 million in the 2013 and Mad Max over $100 million. Too much this Furious A Mad Max saga would need to make 285 times it the $168 million budget, which would put that value to over $40 million. Since the most financially successful movie in history has earned less than $300 million apiece, It is there to say that this could never happen. Even when adjusted for the inflection, such a feat would be completely unimaginable. With a lifetime gross of almost $300 million, Avatar is the most. With the lifetime gross of almost $300 million, Avatar is the most financially successful movie of all time when inflation is taken into the account gone. With the Wind's $4 billion beats, James Cameron blockbuster, neither of these scams close to the huge Sam Furious. A Mad Max saga would not need to make for the movie to beat Mad Max historical box office achievement. This analysis does not even touch on the fact that The Furious A Mad Max Saga is a violent, R-rated action movie whatever gone, while The Wind and Avatar were the both much better suited to family viewing. Furious could beat another Mad Max box office record. Without adjusting for the inflation, Furious, a Mad Max saga, would need to make around $381 million to the death on Fury 4, which is currently the franchise's biggest release. This is still a pretty big ask, but it is a much more believable. Without adjusting for the inflation, Furious, a Mad Max saga would need to make around $381 million to the dethrone Fury Road, which is currently the franchise's biggest release. This is still a pretty big ask, but it is a much more valuable goal for the snipe of Furious. A Mad Max saga might make more than Mad Max Fury Road as the spin-off faces less competition at the box office and benefits from the Furious' established popularity. However, even if Furious A Mad Max Saga does not beat is the predecessor at the box office, the spin-off will never out the original Mad Max according performance. The one original Mad Max box office record Furious can't possibly beat. I can't believe the movie the Mad Max director made before Fury Road. Mad Max director Giorgio Miller has directed two of the most polar opposites films ever made on the paper, while show how meaning to make them the strangely similar considering how strangers and the electric filmography of Australian cinema legend Giorgio Miller is cannot be the set that does not have range. That being said, two of these seemingly diametrical opposite characters, Max Rockatansky and the Mumble the Penguin, go through remarkable similar journeys that call into questions how similar a child-friendly joke musical and a Mesper splatter fast action movie can really be. First and the format, Giorgio Miller is most famous for the directing. First and the format, Giorgio Miller is more famous for the directing the Mad Max movie article post anthological science fiction film that have left and the inevitable mark on the genres. But the Giorgio Miller is a master of many word pollutions of the anthology horror film Twilight Zone, the movie, supernatural comedy dramas like The Witches of the East Week and their 3000 Years of the Longing, and even a random sequel to a children's franchise in the Baby 2 Pink in the City. Giorgio Miller directed both Mad Max Happy Feet. Giorgio Miller directed Mad Max the Happy Feet. The rest of the work, Giorgio Miller perhaps standard Furious apart. However, in Happy Feet and the Mad Max franchise, particularly Mad Max Fury Road, the Mad Max movie, are an apological valiant set in the works of the Giorgio Miller perhaps standard features apart. However, in the Happy Feet and the Mad Max franchise, particles Mad Max Fury Road, the Mad Max movie are unapologized valiant set in the curl Westlands where oil and the water have become scarce, resources that the interior societies are willing to mine and kill for even beyond the typical gory carriage of R-rated series. The Mad Max films are especially bizarre at times, tempering Miller more weird ideas like the riders adorned in the BDSM chair on the uncapped, massive on the hideous muted service arcing and the extents surviving on the meta-ghosts. Even beyond the typical gory canon of a rated R series, the Mad Max films are especially bizarre at time. Meanwhile, Gojo Myler also happened to be the man behind the Happy Feet dilogy, a sequel clean animated musical that released on a photorealistic CGI art styles and the renditions of popular pop anthem to leave an impressions. Taking part in the oddly specific animated Penguins crazed of the early 2000 Happy Feet centers on the Sentinel's penguin living in and Cractive Wu finds soulmates by the singing after being excommunicated from the tribe from the perfecting to dance. Mubel the Penguin stumbles upon. Being announces from this the tribe from the perfecting to dance. Mumble the Penguin stumbles upon an environmental crisis centuries on the rapid decline in the local fish's popularities. The movie have a surprising amount in the common. At first glance, Happy Feet and Mad Max Fury Road seems like they could not be more different. The crowd pleasing neatly drop and the cutie dancing penguin looking for love are a fair cry from the fury and the blood of the apocalypse, looking to be the two popular opposites ends to the spectrums that is the Gojo Myler's filmography. However, upon closer inspections, the movie have a surprising amount in common, especially in terms of their overchanging themes and central characters. Max Rockatansky is one of the most iconic action movie protagonists of all time, and Tom Hardy versions of him in Mad Max Fury Road implies his nature as a sort of the mythical wandering folk hero, helping the innocent people of the western lands while refusing to stick around to see the fruits of his the labor, always outcast by his own international demons, no matters how good of the company they manage to find himself in. Like Fishy's Mamble is the excommunicated for this the preference in the rhythm expressions, but he managed to find solve in the new friends and prove himself to his the elders. Both films also take place in the hostels, Westerlands from the barren field of a post-apocalyptic Australian. Both films also take place in the hostile Westerlands from the barren field of a post-apocalyptic Australians outback to the windspeed ice peaks of the Australia. Both films examine the effect of the population on both of these environments with the message of the ecological stewardship and the consequence of its failure. Abilities very different ways, even the visual language which Myler portrays both of these hostical bio is similar, with the way sweeping camera movements contributing to this the legacy. It's shocking to admit just how much in the common Mad Max has with the friendly talking penguins. The Road Warrior vs. Fury Road. What is the best Mad Max movie? The Road Warrior and the Fury Road are widely regarded to be the Mad Max movie, but which one is truly the great film in the classic post-apocalyptic action franchise? Mad Max originated has no budget. Indeed, production in the late 1917, Gorgeous Myler first Mad Max. Mel Gibson was recently asked which Mad Max movie the Thor was the best and the Gibson's name the Road Warrior as his the favorite. He said that from an audience perspective, that Road Warrior told the cleanest story with some excellent thrillers, but the only Mad Max movie to be the nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture arrived decide after Gibson left franchise Mad Max Fury Road, starring Tom Hardy and Max was the heard as one of the greatest action movie ever made. So much Mad Max movie is better, The Road Warrior or The Fury Road. The Road Warrior and The Fury Road are Mad Max highest rated movie. All the Mad Max movies have flashy scores on the Rotten Tomatoes, and none of them have dipped below 80%, which is the pretty impressive for an action movie. Franchise spanning 5 decades, but The Road Warrior and The Fury Road are the highest rated film of the lot. The R-rated has an approval rating of the 93% and The Fury Road has an even more respectable rating of the 97%. The other three movies there are on the admirable scores, but they are slight lowered. Mad Max had the 90%, Beyond the Thunderdome has the 81% and the Furious, a Mad Max saga has the 90%. Even Mad Max movie has its own materials that have been praised by the criticized. The first movie introduced a unicorn visions of the sci-fi action cinema through a low-budget Indian lens. The second movie expanding that visions with the explosive action and the mind-blowing visuals. Beyond the Thunderdome introduced the iconic trailer Death Match Arms and the great performance by the teen tenors. Fury Road is an the R-tight action masterpiece that is essentially a feature-length car chases, and the Furious is a sparrow-willing revenge. Epic with a delightful, eccentric villain and the jaw-dropping twist ending. How the stories of Mad Max 2 and Fury Road compare. Miller has often described his Mad Max movie as the westerns on the wheels. Much like classic westerns, the Mad Max film tells mythic stories of good visuals, evil, and takes place on a lawless wasteland full of the slangers. The only difference between traditional westerns and the Mad Max movie is that westerns are set in the past and Mad Max is set in a post-apocalyptic future. The characters in the westerns ride on the historical break while the westerns are set in the past and Mad Max is set in a post-apocalyptic futures. The characters in the western ride on the horseback while the characters in Mad Max drive modified trucks and the muscular cars. Both The Road Warrior and Fury Road tell standard western stories with a post-apocalyptic twist. The Road Warrior is a sport apocalyptic version of a typical spent westerns like the Sego Leone, a fate full of dollars. Makes like Client Eastwood Mad Max with the number one is a lone wolf providing the westerns. Then he comes across the town full of innocent people being terrorized by a nefarious king. He interviews and the liberates the town people. Fury Road is more like a post-apocalyptic version of the John Ford. As an example of heroes driving across the deserts get attacked by the legions of bad guys and have to find them off. From the opening murders chases to the climactic theaters chases, The Road Warrior has some of the best actions in the Mad Max franchise, but Fury Road has the greatest action in the series by far. All the other Mad Max films are the traditional action movie with the characters' drama wedged in between the big set pieces, but Fury Road is pretty much just monologue set pieces, unlike The Road Warrior and the most other film in the action genres. Fury Road is all action. It's basically a feature-length car chases. All the other Mad Max films are the traditional action movie with the characters' drama in between the big set pieces, but the Fury Road is pretty much just one the long set pieces. Miller earned a reputation as one of the greatest action filmmakers in the world with the car chases of The Road Warrior, but he was limited by the technology of his time. When he made Fury Road, he stuck to his ethos of using old-school particle stunts and the effect wherever possible, but he also and the CGI technology at his disposal to enhance the action and touch up this. The combination of time-tested particles methods and the exacting new visuals effect made Fury Road best of the both worlds and the global standards of the modern action cinema. Road Warrior is more of a Mad Max than the Fury Rod. Mad Max plays a prominent role in the both Road Warrior and the Fury Road, but the Road Warrior is more of a true Max story. The Road Warrior follows Max on his the heroic quest to liberate the oppressed twins people from their submit overlords, but in Fury Road, Mad Max is just alone for the ride. The real main characters in Fusion as she frees Immortan Joe weaves and he drives them to solutions aboard the war rig. Furious is the protagonist. Max is more of a supporting character helping her on her journey. Road Warrior vs Fury Road, which is the better movie. Both the Road Warrior and the Fury Road are fine Mad Max films that they rank among greatest action movie ever made. The Road Warrior delivers some jaw-dropping car chases, offer a fresh perspective, one of the Spain hit westerns formula and created a lot of the tropes that are now internationally tried to the post-apocalyptic crime, but Fury Road is ranked among the greatest action movie ever made. The Road Warrior delivers some jaw-dropping car chases, offer a fresh perspective on the spiting western formula and created a lot of the tropes that are now internationally tried to the post-apocalyptic genre, but the Fury Road is the arguable the final film. There very little fat in the Road Warrior, but the Fury Road is an even laner minor piece of action cinema. It gets on the road nice and the early and does not let up until the end credit. Fury Road adds to the Miller hectonic dictations to the telling his story with the visually as possible. It has very little expositional dialogue. A viewer in any country could watch this movie and follow the story without turning the subtitle on. It's and the intentional cinema experience. Even someone who hates car chases movie would have to admit that Fury Road is a masterpiece. The Road Warrior and the Fury Road are the undefinable the two greatest Mad Max movie, but Fury Road just about the edge on the Road Warrior for the title of very best. The real meaning behind the War Boys hand symbol in Mad Max Fury Road. The War Boys use a detective identify and the gestures all throughout Mad Max Fury Road, but the movie never explains what their hand symbol actually means. Director Gorjo Miller is not in the business of the over-explaining the lore of his movie. In the duration of a fair hectic, Miller is a deeply visual storyteller. Miller wants audience around the world to be able to understand his film without the suitable on the flocking the story from the sequencing of the imagine alone, and for the most part he success in doing so. One of the most detective visual motifs in Mad Max Fury Road, arguably the best movie of the Miller. One of the most distinctive visuals most in the Mad Max Fury Road, arguably the best movie of the Miller career. In the hand symbol used by the War Boys throughout the movie, the War Boys communicate with the another by the interblocking four fingers from the each hand, eight total in the shape of the letter V. This the recurring image show the cut like the spattle between the War Boys, but is also like a deeper meaning that taps into the religious facting at the heart of the Mad Max franchise. The Mad Max hand symbol is made to resemble a V8 engine. The hand symbol used by the War Boys is designed to resemble a V8 engine. V8 engines familiars have two banks of four cylinders that shares a common crankshaft and are arranged in the configurations of the letter V. That the War Boys' eight fingers are supposed to resemble the eight cylinders of V8 engines. The hand symbol used by the War Boys is defined to resemble a V8 engines. V8 engines families have two banks of four cylinders that share a common crankshaft and are arranged in the configurations of the letter V. The war boy's 8 fingers are spotted to resemble the 8 cylinders of a V8 engine, while their V-shaped possif is supposed to resemble the avenging V. Configurations to the hammer this the home. The gesture is referred to as the sign of the V8. The war boy's 8 fingers are thus supposed to resemble the 8 cylinders of a V8 engines, while their V-shaped possif is supposed to resemble the engine V configurations. Configurations. The Warboss workshop of V8 engaging has a real-world parallel in the 1970s street recars fair, clamoring to modify their cars with the V8 engines, but their desire to drive a car with a V8 for hammed by the V8 need for the high oceans. Glossals or V8 engaging use up a lot of the horsepower with their high commissions rating, so they require 100 oceans gosling, which had stopped being produced at the time. So these street recars worship and the engaging they could never use, similar to the war boys. The war boys continue to the idea of the vehicles as a religions in Mad Max movie. Even since Mad Max 2, the Road Warrior introduced the post-apocalyptic westerns, worship the cars of the All Warrior has been a major component of the Mad Max world building. On the westerns, people worship power and the speed like it is a religion, since working vehicles are scarce and the gosling is precious. Anyone with the either of those things antithetical like a god. The war boy's religious obsession with the V8 engaging it made Max Fury Road continue that the trend. What witness we means in Mad Max Fury Road. The world building in Mad Max Fury Road is one of its greatest standards, with an interior culture being convinced within the movie runtime. The movie is one of the most successful franchise reboots of all time, with Mad Max Fury Road getting a 90% 7 positive critical score from the Rotten Tomatoes and receiving the Mad Max franchise. The movie is usual in the Mad Max universe, while Max is the Tyler hero. The existential characters and the standout performance of their actors have overshadowed Mad Max. One of these is the news The War Boy, played by the Nicholas Hoult. The main antagonist in Mad Max Fury Road is the Immortal Joe, whose terrifying appearance and the control of the credible make him one of the best Mad Max villains seen so far. There are survival ranks out and the title in the criticals community, and the war boys have the role of the Immortan Joe's personal armies. These men behave like religious franchises, and while Fury Road's viewers only get a glimpse into their cultures, some significant moments give and the insight into their benefits. Their inside the war boys' language, war point, and their custom of the shouting Witness We. Witness We is the war boys' battle cry calling attention to their glory. The war boys in the Mad Max Fury Road believe that the greatest glory possible is to the die battles victorious on the Fury Road. In a similar but evolved versions of the Viking mythological, they are believed that the war boys who die in this the manner will live forever in the visuals, shiny and the chrome. Mad Max Fury Road establish that the war boys are the comparatives and will rate are the sacrifice of the members of their group. Yelling Witness We is a vital part of their regular sacrifice and their way of the ensuring that their glorious ending will be seen by their press. The war boys have more of an elaborate culture than the Fury Road show. The war boys have more of an elaborate culture than the Fury Road shows, though it is clear that their vehicles are the center of their life. While many of the war boys' rituals are well established to them. The original of many of their parties are the mysteries to viewers as well as shoutings. Witness me. Meet Max Fury Road. War boys spray chrome spent across their the mouth before dying while the witness sleep. With their hands above their heads, the lack of the explanations for many of their action add to the intricate, as well as shouting witness me made Max Fury roared. War boys spray chrome panicked across their mouth before dying while the witness lord with their hands above their heads. The lack of the explanations for many of their actions add to the incredibles while allowing the plot to take center stage. Is witness me a positive or the negative sentiment in a Mad Max? When more ever tasks to spears to the head and still manage to destroy a vehicles, it is one of the greatest stunts in the Mad Max franchise, and the sacrifice appears to be demand worthy of the valuable by most of the war boys. For the war boys making the call, the cry of the witness me, it is a positive sentiment as they believe that they are about to make the greatest ending possible. The iconic word are command to the other war boys, with the sacrificed person making a final wish that their death is be seen. Next dies on the Fury Road on the winning sides of a battle for a war boys. This is the greatest possible way to die, and it had been Nuke's ultimately goal. However, as Nuke has the changed sides, there are no other war boys around to witness his death. The cause is one of the most tragic in the Mad Max Fury Road, as Nuke has not abandoned all of his the culture and the whispering witness me to capable before the dies. These scenes might be the heartbreaking, but it is one of the beasts in the Mad Max Fury Road. When a wife Furious turned against Immortan Joe in the Mad Max franchise before Fury Road, all thought Furious a Mad Max saga died. Explain how the Mad Max franchise hadn't ended up the working for the Immortan Joe. The pre-quel did not show their the turning against him. The Mad Max movie already had a pretty complicated Carly before 2024. Fury Road pre-quel Furious, a Mad Max saga, 1979 Mad Max takes place after society has begun to break down but before the franchise off-screen apocalyptic 1981 sequel The Road Warrior take place after the end of the world, and 1985 Beyond the Thunders take place even later, seemingly 2015 Fury Road Ocean Last. However, Furious a Mad Max saga complicated this. The prequel being decided after the apological when the Furious is still a young girl. Somehow Furious is only a little younger than Max in the Fury Road when according to Furious a Mad Max saga and Mad Max he should be around 60 years older than her. The mystery around the Mad Max franchise timeline aside, Furious a Mad Max saga was a critical acclaim additional to the series. That said, director Gorgeous Miller pre-quel did not delve into one major questions about the backstory of its title characters. Furious seems like she will work from the Immortan Joe definitely in Furious a Mad Max saga. Furious a Mad Max saga does not address Furious feud with the Immortal Joe, who she is still allied with by end of the pre-quel Miller movie makes it the abundantly clear that the Immortan Joe is just as the monstrous and the immoral a warlord as he was in the Fury Road. But it is the expanding for the Furious to allegiance herself with him to survive. When she is first captured, Furious is kept alongside Immortan Joe, female captives, and the bravely escape. She becomes one of the Immortan Joe war boys and works her way up through the rank of his the Myril. Foraging a relationship with the portrait's Jack. Furious Formans and the Unseas align with the ward so he can survive in the criticized. All thought potential Jack does die in Furious, a Mad Max saga ending. Furious eventually gets her revenge on Chase Hemsworth dementia when the war boys defeat his the Horde. Since Furious does not have any immediate plans to find the many mothers again, and she lost the star map to her home when she was forced to spare her arm, there is no impetus for her to begin a battle with the Immortan Joe yet, at least temporarily. Furious from an unusually aliens with the world so she can survive in home when she forced to sever her arm. There is no impetus for her to begin a battle with the Immortans Joe yet, at least temporarily. Furious from and the uneasy aliens with the world so she can survive in the craters. This seemingly lasts until the events of the Fury Road. It's not clear how much time has passed between Furious and the Fury Road. Since viewers does not know how much time passed between Furious, a Mad Max saga ending, and the Fury Road, being Furious might have Immortal Joe in pretty quickly. She may have decided that upholding the worldwide inhuman regimes was not worth in within the few months or years of being to avoid his war boys, and the only way to judge is by looking at the character's appearance. Charlize Theron Fury Road versions of the Furies is not that much older than Anya Joe Furious, a Mad Max saga in corrections of the characters. Since viewer did not how much time passed between Furious, a Mad Max saga ending, and Fury Road beings, Furious might have Immortan Joe him pretty quickly. She may have decided that upholding the word impure remain what does not worth in with a few months or years of being. She may decide that upholding the word in humans resign was not worth in the within a few months of year of being to guide his war boys, and the only way to judge is by looking at the character's appearance. Charlize Theron Fury Road versions of Furious is not that much older than Anya Joe Furious, a Mad Max saga in corrections of the characters. Characters does not age, not merely in the westerns, so it is impossible to judge just how much time passes between Fury Road and Furious, a Mad Max saga. However, even this does not give too big a clue, thanks to that the sleepy nature of gains in the Mad Max universe as not above the Mad Max franchise. However, even this does not give too big a clue, thanks to the sleeper's natures of gain in the Mad Max universe. As noted above, the Mad Max franchise unseen apocalyptic awkward over for decide before Furious was a child. Since Max was in his teens before the off-screen event happened, Tom had the characters in the Fury Road show theoretical be at least 60-somethings. This proves that the characters don't age normally in the wasteland, so it is impossible to judge just how much time passes. Some things that the proves that the characters does not age normally in the wasteland, so it is impossible to judge just how much time passes between Fury Road and Furious, a Mad Max saga. Furious decide to the field to the cradles after getting to know to the vice. The fact that Lechi Humans Furious, a Mad Max saga versions of the Immortan Joe looks almost identical to huge case variants take on the characters in Fury Road does not make things any clear. Furious Fury Road tie in the iconic does offer a backstory that explains her motivations for the betraying Immortan Joe, but this is the particles record in Furious, a Mad Max saga in Mad Max Fury Road Furious, the second issue of a tie in the iconic release alongside Fury Road Furious, become the big guardian to the Immortan Joe 5 females captions his the while mainstream of them leads her to plot their escape. However, this is the contradicted in the Furious, a Mad Max saga wherein Furious intentionally learns about Immortan Joe's waves when she is trapped in their value when first captured by the war boys. She meets the captive again in the pre-equal ending, but the intentional introduce the captive in the comic is reconnected by this twist. In any cases, learning about Immortan's Joe abuse of his psychiatric leads Furious to between him and feed them. The questions of when she makes this the choice remain a Mad Max franchise mysterious even after Furious a Mad Max saga story. When and the why Furious turned against Immortan's Joe in the Mad Max franchise before Fury. All thought Fury's A Mad Max saga did not explain how the Mad Max franchise heroic ended up working for the Immortan Joe. The pre-equel did not show that running against him. The Mad Max movie already had a pretty complicated colony. Before 2024, Fury wrote pre-equal Furious, a Mad Max saga 1979. Mad Max takes place after society has begun to break down, but before the franchise off-screen apocalyptic 1981 sequel The Road Warrior takes place after the end of the world, and 1985 Beyond the Thunders take place even later. Seemingly 2015 Fury wrote Awkward Last. However, Furious A Mad Max saga complicated this. The pre-equal begins decide after the apocalyptic when the Furious is still a young girl. Somehow, Furious is only a little younger than Max in the Fury Road when the according to Furious A Mad Max saga and Mad Max, he should be around 60 years older than her. The mystery around the Mad Max franchise timelines aside, Furious A Mad Max saga was a critical acclaim, adding to the series. That side, director Giorgio Miller pre-equal did not delve into one major questions about the blockbuster of its title characters. Furious seems like she will work for the Immortan Joe definitely in Furious A Mad Max saga. Furious A Mad Max saga does not address Furious' feud with the Immortan Joe, for she is still allied with the by end of the pre-equal Miller movie makes it the abundantly clear that the Immortan Joe is just as the monstrous and the immoral award as he was in Fury Road, but it is explained for the Furious to alien herself with him to survive. When she is first captured, Furious is kept alongside Immortan Joe, female captives, and the bravely escape. She becomes one of the Immortan Joe war boys and were her way up through the rank of his the Miller origins a relationship with the Patricians Jack, Furious forms, and the uneasy alliance with the world so she can survive in the kettles. All thought Protections Jack does die in the Furious, a Mad Max saga ending Furious eventually gets her revenge on the chases Hemsworth demands when the war boys define his hordes. Since Furious does not have any immediate plan to find the many mothers against, and she lost to star map to her home when she was forced to spare her arm, there is no impacts for there to being a battle with the Immortals Joe yet, at least temporarily Furious forms and the uneasy aliens when the word so she can survive in the carried in seemingly late until even of the Fury Rod. Furious seems like she will work for the important Joe indefinitely in Furious A Mad Max saga. Furious A Mad Max saga does not address Furious' feud with the Immortals Joe, who she is still allied with by the end of the pre-equal Miller movie makes it the eventually clear that the important Joe is just as monstrous and the immoral award as he was in Fury Road, but it is exempting for the Furious to align herself with him to survive. when she is first captures Furious is kept alongside Immortan Joe females captive and they barely escape. She becomes one of the important Joe war boys and works her way up through the thanks of his the military origins, a relationship with the patrons Jack, Furious Formus and the uneasy aliens with the word so she can survive in the caters. Although Patrickson's Jack does die in the Furious, a Mad Max saga ending, Furious eventually gets her revenge on the Chia Hemsworth demon when the war boys defeat his horde. Side Furious does not have any immediate plans to find the many mothers again, and she lost the stars mapped to her home when she was forced to sever her arm. There is no impacts for her to begin a battle with the important Joe yet, at least temporarily furious from and the uneasy aliens with the word so she can survive in the caters. This seemingly lasts until the events of the Fury Road. All five of Immortan Joe waves in Mad Max Fury Road and what happened to them. The five views of main villains Immortan Joe. Huge case pen are central to the plot of the Mad Max Fury Road. Huge case pen are the central to the plot of the Mad Max Fury Road, which follows Fury, Charlize Theron helping the woman escape captive, picking up Max Rockatansky Tom Hardy along the way. The Mad Max Alex sequel saw and the unprecedented reception sweetly becoming considered one of the best action movies of all time and creating its own legacy in the genre. Elevating the thrilling chase sequence is an impactful story primarily about these women and their life in the Visitor's Land. The View as a group were originally concepted with the each woman defined by one core characteristic funny barely Variants educated and the leader VI aligned with the writers and the actors to further development them later the final products of the Fury Road does not giving the waves a surprise of time to showcase their the personalities but the fleeting moments and well planted dialogue still allow their characters to come across. Together they stand alongside Furious and makes as a of different takes on the survival in this setting. 5. The Splending Ahad Rose's Hunting Victuals. The woman known as the Splending Agard is the clear leader of the group, who is mentioned by the other women as having considered them to flee with the furious Assad. Her name with the another means a much love. The woman known as the Splending and Hart is the clear leader of the group who is mentioned by the other women as having considered them to the flew with the furious ahead. Her name Vinti Agard's meaning, a much loved one, allowed to her being considered a prize by Immortan Joe as she is also said to be his favorite. She is kind, brave and the inspiring allowing her to be an effective leader. Anne Egord is heavily pregnant at the time of the escape and makes herself visible to the important store during the chases to protect everyone, knowing he will not damage the war right and the risk harming the baby. However, she is then thrown from the ride and the tramples under the vehicles killing both her and the child. The Mad Max die in the comic. Details more about the brutally and hard faces during her time at the cradles and the aliens between her and Furious that the development before they attempt and the escape. 4. Toast the Knowing So Creative. Toast the Knowledge is the group brain as evidenced by her title of the knowing. Her more information's name Toast is an in-joke with the cast and the crew. Name after Fury Road visuals effect date Wagner's. Toast the Knowing is group brain as evidenced by her title of the knowing. Her more information's name Toast is an joke with the cast and the crew. Name after Fury Road visuals effect date Vernal shame toast. Yadif toast is seen, meaning self-lies during Fury Road and they spent some times traveling on her own before the events of the movie, fostering a compounding of the particle skills. With the rest of the surviving cast, Toast help kill Immortan Joe and they take the cradles in the Mad Max Fury Road ending. Resulted she saws there to help Furious and the other establish a new regions with their fair distributions of the supplies. Giving her personality is would not be surprising. It too stayed closer to Furious than the other and they learned more about driving to help define the criticals in the features. Capable standard out as the seductive out of Immortan Joe waves, which is a very low description for the role she plays in the story, while her name might actually seems more suitable for the characters like. However, it can also be interpreted that she is capable of forming trusting relationship in a way that many people in the Wasteland are not, where it's not often to kill her or be like. This is seen capable discovers that next has showed away about the war rights and the farmers and the factions' relationship with him. Capable and Nuke's interactions are not necessarily romantic and but they are physical, comfortables around each other, and the capable word inspire Nukes to help them, perhaps making their eventual victory possible. Capable also returned to the cradle at the end of the Fury Road, while Nex is killed during the defined battle, giving her temperament. Capable might try to encourage friendly relationship among those who reside at the cradles. Pseudo-defying quality is in her name titles, making it clear that her role is and her character started out. Namely, Chiro has the most reception about the running from the Immortan Joe and has to protect by the others following Aghard's death. Chiro wants to go back to the cradles and beg for the Jew forgiveness, as they will at least not be killed by the fighting or the export there, but is convinced that she is not possible by the other. By the standards of much of today media, Chiro is the character who the audience is probably less inclined to like because she is not as the fearless as the inherent or twist. However, her moments of the disappear is the important to the story, showing that by the standards of much of today media, Chiro is the character who the audience is the probably last inclined to like because she is not as fair as ingratitude or twist. However, her moment of the despair is important to the story, showing that the supplies provided at the cradles are not small things in this world and the real debut about the can rises from the grief. Deposit these things. Chiro cares on the others and they eventually helps fight because before returning to the cradles. The big Abel Lee. The Fury One can be a useful narrative tool for the grifty stories, breaking up the intensity with some dark humor. However, the dog is not giving a ton of the whisk-cracking jokes during her on-screen appearance in Fury Road. A dog is also Australian slang for the erratic persons flirting her the prescribed. However, the dog is not giving a ton of the whisk-cracking jokes during her on-screen appearance in Fury Road. A dag is also Australian slang for an striking person, flirting her the prescribed personality. Dag is also present during the woman's flight to freedom and makes some sacrifice remark about whatever she is having a boy or girls while talking with one of the many mothers. She subtitle provides a sharp presence among the main characters in Mad Max Fury Road and also returns to the cradles where the preamble letter gives breath the core characters that the word Intel's idea of the waves in this movie profitable in the personalities that construct and they complement each other From their Dengar's journey to finding eventual peace and the relative sacred, the women's different skills and the personalities prove individuals. When I saw the trailer for Mad Max Fury Road, I was positive it would be one I could not see. I don't like violence film and it looked like a gory violence mess. However, I always go through my process I describe for the evaluating movie content is how to be the mom and the like movie. I looked at the review, the details, content summarize on the screen and I asked friend who have seen the movie. To my surprise, I found it have two visuals, no profanity and to not be easy violence. I anticipated it is an R, but most of that is more battle like the violence. Some nudity and the visuals battle consider it was within my the comfort level. I decided to go check it out. It is very tricky movie to review because it is not what it is that trying to do massively well. I do not know how that can be dictated. Whatever such a masterwork is your cup of the tea is another question. It's certainly not a movie I will be frequently rewatching, but I did not think it was good and they engaged me more that I would give guessed. All in all that it is a success and I can see why many people love it. I have not seen the original Mad Max movie because I always figured they were too violent to surprise. I will give them a watch. This Mad Max does not have much of plot. It's one action sequence after another. It does not try to have symbol or a puzzle like a Nolan film might have. It does not have a strong and leaders like the Born Him. The title is perhaps a mindset a misnomer because Mad Max has only a few lines of dialogues and is an ensemble player with the Charlize Theron. Max has only a lines of the dialogues and is an ensemble player with the Charlize Theron and the other. Word that is the role by main name, the Immortan Joe. Max has been arrested and is the focus to be a long bad for the war B plot and the Nichols Hall. Charlie Theron is the furious who epic wife of the Joe waves called the Breeders. The rest of the movie is Max furious and the crew getting chased by Joe and the having intense battle with the each other. Each of the cars is so immigrations with one of even being a gland speaks sentences with a guy playing and the electric guitars. There are cars that they have long poles for the people to swipe onto other cars. There are rides with the Gosling and other cover in the spike. It keeps the action acting. It keeps the action exacting because you did not know how the cars work and how the figure will play out. For not speaking much, Tom Hardy is good as Mad Max, but the movie does not give you a lot of time to complete these characters. I cannot even imagine how awful it must to be to shoot a movie like this with all the dust and the dirt, but he is convincing as the sort anti-hero. The CG is kept minimum and it at least appears to have a lot of the particle effects. The stunt work is the flaws. I wonder how much hard and the other did not their own stunts. Whatever the presents is by the professionals. The CG is kept to the minimum and it at least appears to have a lot of the particles effect. The stunt work is the flawless. I wonder how much Hearts and the other did of the own stunts. Whatever the presents is by the professional you definitely can't. It feels earth and the release which we have not seen and the action film is in a long time. I love how Mad Max handle it the female characters. It reminds me a little bit of the Emily Blunt's adage of the tomorrow. These are not child warrior women or the damnants in the distress. Even the breeds women are the relatively complex, especially for this kind of movie. Charlie Theron is amazing. She is tough but has heart, and there is a moment that is completely devastating for her, and she is the seal it. There are different kind of women young women, pregnant women, and they are definitely female tropes. The last thing I expected in a movie like this is an awesome group of women, and it definitely helps sell me on the film. Huge key span is good as the villain Immortan Joe, but the most of that credit has to go. This the costume and the mask. There is the such attention to detail, the amount of time that they must have been spent to get teeth right, skin layered and the dry lips cracked, everything covered is the mind blowing. The makeup on war boys included Nicole's Hoult is very convincing. They are the brainwashed to believe if they are obedient. Stevens to joy thou will achieve immortals at the gates of the heaven. The Mad Max Fury Road is not a movie that gives the audience much time to breathe. There is very little dialogues and I did not feel kind of the accents by the end of it. But then again I feel like it was for trying to do something completely different and new from a comic book guy like the Gojo Miller it's made. Mad Max Fury Road is not movie that gives the audience much time to break. There is very little dialogues and I did feel I kind of extend by the end of it. But then again I feel like it was for trying to do something completely different and new and from a comic book guy like the gorgeous Smiler it makes sense. It is the primarily a visual spectacle still is pushed me to my the limit of the a political car battle sequence. Oh no, I had such a limit. I am a little surprised it is so universal love because I would think a few peoples might be the brother by the thin plot and lack of the character's development. I guess they just accept it for what it is a new darling creative visions of what a war movie look like. After all do we complain that the villains in a WW2 movie are not fleshed out. Do we want more dialogues in our John Warner war movie? No, same with this. It is the visual incredibles and the action is the impressive enough to cry the day. Such a pleasant surprise, and I bet you could see movie and not even action most of the women. They are just characters in the movie like anybody else. It looks gorgeous. The action sequences are stunning and I was entertained. As far as could not, it has some nudity for our distance and a woman are the melt. Legs go in the one brief suit. Characters are the stables, impact tortures, and the shoot is the battle scenes. Another you see briefly has his face wrapped off from a mask. A lot of the crashes, explosion, and the sand a lot of crashes, explanations, and the sandstorms that are the intense. A woman has a C-section mostly off screen, and Ivy is seen being inside. I look at the sound crazy, but it's actually more tense than you might think. No language, mostly it is a lot of cars and the bar fighting like a battle than one violence. One on one violence like you might get in a horror movie. Review Made Max Fury Road. Has it really been 30 years since Mel Gibson's last divorce exercise? Gorgeous Miller deposits does not Westernland in Mad Max Beyond. Thunders may how time flows between 1979 and the 1985 Warner filmmakers Miller gives us three films, the integrating but the largely Mad Max, the fabulous classic, The Road Warrior, and then the fun but the commercial Beyond Thunders, while the second film was the real standout. I have always had a natural soft spot of the interior franchise, so of course I would be the emphatic when it was announced that a fourth installment was the finally seeing the light of day. For years, Miller has toyed with the idea of the bring Mad Max to the big screen, but there were always obstacles that the hindered him. Mel Gibson was set to repair this role, and at survival point, the project seems good to do. Survival years have passed. Tom Hardy replaced the gags Gibson and the Fury Road is literally what are truly amazing is that is the weirdest, craziest, and the most visuals. Finally seeing the light of day, for years Miller has toyed with the idea of the bring Mad Max to the big screen, but there were always obstacles that the hindered him. Mel Gibson was set to repair his role at the survival point. The project seems good to do. Survival years have passed. Tom Hardy replaced the adage Gibsons, and Fury Road is a reality. What truly amazing is the weirdest, craziest, and the most visual arresting installment yet, and all from the mind of its now 70 years old characters. The first three films had a combined budget of less than $20 million. For Fury Road, Miller was giving $150 million, and you will instantly see the benefits. The visuals are an essential compound to this the film. This is an the unapologized, full trolley thrill ride and a textbook lesson on how to make an action movie. Make no mistake, the action is the Fury Road is intense and the relentlessness. The Wiggler's carriage is unlike anything most people have seen before. The story is a bit lightweight and a Charlie instinct to survive the plot madness. This is all might be enough to scare away some people. For me, it was the film inflecting flew, injected focus that made it the made movie explain I have this year. So far, the film opens with the groovy Hardy sings, "My name is Max, my word is fire and the blood, his word is and the energy survive post apocalyptic deserts visitors land where he is the hunted by his past and driven only by survival. Within the first few minutes, the nomadic Max is the captured by the arm of the swag and the film opens with the groove Hardy sings, "My name is Max, my word is a fire and the blood. His word is an energetic step by the apocalyptic does not visitors where he is the hunted by his the past and driving only by survival. Within the first few minutes, the nominated Max is the captured by the army of a swag and the vehicle's group is trying name Importance Joe. Max captures leader Hims to the cross path with the Impactors furious, who attempts to smuggle Show 5 eventual child-breathing wave to the safely. This involves the worth of the Michael's leader, who brings his the entire army after them, and the guess what? Max is the catch right in the middle. I can't think of a more fighting actor to take on the role of Mad Max than Tom Hardy. His dialogues is spare and he mainly tells him the story through trends, experience, and the outright physicals, and he does it all the sheer perfections. It is a unforgettable roles. He is not asked to say much, and he spent a good. I can't think of a more fighting actor to take on the role of Mad Max than the Tom Hardy. His dialogues is spare, and the manly tells him story through grunts, expressions, and the outright sacrifice, and he does it all of the sheer perfection. It's a very unorthodox role. He is not asked to say much and he spends a good third of the movie with his face particles the absurd by the mental conceptions, but he masterful sells us this the tough, survivally and the untrusting Max characters, but the real surprising was watching Charlie Theron match this the toughness punch for the punch and the bullet for the bullet. She is so good here. But of course, the true star had the main attractions is the gorgeous Miller and his intense, energetic action for the presentations. But of course, the true star and the main attractions is the gorgeous Miller and his intensely energetic action and the presentations. Fury Road is a visual delight, a movie filled with the wow moments, unbelievable stunts, and the mind-blowing vehicles. Action sequence Miller shoots his action with a chartic precision and the cinematic fidelity. Many modern action directors should take notes, but the eventually impressive are the stunning amount of the particles event used, When mixed with the top-notch CGI, it has this one amazing looking film, and going along with the stellar visuals is stunning, XLS vibrant and the invigorating scores. Some of us had given up on the Mad Max ever, returning to the big screen. After 30 years it was a reasonable conclusion, but after seemingly Fury Road, I can bloody say it was the worth wait. Gorgeous Miller has given us and the installment that stands right there with and probably an inch or two above his the Panamal, the Road Warrior. This is pure. Some of us had given up on Road Max ever returning to the big screen after 30 years. It was a reasonable conclusion, but after seemingly Fury Road, I can broadly see it was worth the wait. Gorgeous Miller has given us an installment that stands right there with the and probably an inch or two above. Is the Panuvel, the Road Warrior. This is the pure action cinema, a beautiful mixture of old school style and modern movie technology. And after this taste of the Miller visions, I can only hope he has more Mad Max movie planned for the futures. Cinema Pet Road Discourse Mad Max Fury Road Review. Plot synopsis. In a task desert's landscape when the humanity is a broken to rebel just the might to be able restores order makes a man of the action of a few words and the furious a woman of actions who is looking to make it back to her childhood homeland. Yes, this is what this movie are meant to be like. I have been moving for years that they can't make a decent action blockbuster anymore. It's all CGI bullshit now with the shifty script and the crappy characters. Oh how I have longer the days of the trainers and the aliens. Well, I am happy to see that Mad Max Fury Road is a return to the board all days of the action-packed blockbuster, and as a huge added bonus, we have ourselves another Ellen reply with the Charlie Theron kicks as the Impactor Furious. That right, ladies, this is a totally broken volume, non-stop Adrian's flute extents that has the female audience in the mind just as much its male audience. Yes, the female characters don't take a backseat in Fury Road. They are driving this the bastard. I am not kind of the regretting my post from the 2 days ago in which I rated survival movie I thought I did given either too high or the too low of a rating. I said that I think I sometimes rate new release too harshly due to particles hype and the partly to my enjoyment of the experience of going to a movie in the cinema. So now I have gone to the best movie I have seen in a very long time, and I am still on a high as I am writing this just after seeing it and how I am going to just rave about it like and the ideal and end up giving it a really high rating. Well, you can trust me on this. Fury Road is not a movie that will need R rating because I have rated it too highly in my extended. In fact, I am afraid I would not to justic and my rate is the slightly too low as I want to be more catching with my the rating now. Drama will see. I still do not know at this point what rating I will give it. I always try to stay as the spoiler free as possible in my previous and I want to say possibles. Careful with this one as I think knowing as the little as possible before seeing Fury Road may add to your enjoyment. I know it did for me as I did not quite what to accept beyond the one trailer I did seen. So I am not going to get very specific about things that happen in the movie as I am not sure that what is common knowledge, what is not. I think people like this one, whenever they seen the Mel Gibson film or not. My experience is this. I saw the first two but I admit that all thought I did really like them at the time. I only watched them once so many years ago that I don't remember that they as well as I did like. Sorry Mad Max fans. I wanted to rewatch them before seeing Fury Road but has not had the time. I will definitely make time for them again at some point now, but Fury Road worked just fine as a film on its own.